Welcome to the Shootin' Show. Stand by for shots fired.
Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and yes, it's cold out here today. If it looks like we're shooting on a gray and cold afternoon, well, that is in fact what we are. Even here in Louisiana, it does get cold, and certainly as we're taping this, it is New Year's Day. We want to wish every one of you, Kurt the Judge, myself, and all our people who work on the project want to wish each and every one of you a great New Year. Hopefully 95 will be a better year for all of us. And as gun owners, we took quite a beating in 1994 with some of these ridiculous laws that were passed by Congress. And now, friends, we have a chance to get some of this mess repealed, some of it stopped dead in its tracks. The problem is that our opposition, the people who literally want to take everything that goes bang away from us, they're not resting. So we can't either. We have to go to work on these congressmen, on these local officials, and we have to let our voices be known. We have to let ourselves be heard. We have to stand up and say, no, you're not going to get away with it. You're not going to disarm us, the decent citizens of this country. And that's exactly what they want to do. So anyway, we have a great show for you today. We have a feature on semi-automatics I think you're going to enjoy. We also have a most unusual gun we're going to take a look at in just a moment. Well, for now, let's open today's Shootin' Show. Let's carbine these targets over here. No, I didn't want to get wet. It's too cold. Well, friends, we have a SIG, which stands for the Swiss Industrial Group. And actually, this gun is made in Germany. This is a SIG Sauer model P220. Now, most of us who are familiar with the 220 normally see it as caliber 45 ACP. Well, guess what? This one's not a 45. It's in 38 Super, which certainly I think is one of the most underrated or underappreciated calibers. The 38 Super, when it originated back in the late 20s, along about that period in the early 30s when it first began to see usage, was thought to be a super powerful cartridge at its introduction, and in fact it is powerful. The better 38 Super loadings today, we have a model here from Winchester. It runs a 125 grain bullet, about the same velocity that the same Winchester load does in 9mm with 115 grain bullets. So it's a little stronger than the standard 9mm. Well, Carbine makes a 38 Super that runs a 9mm type bullet, 115 or so grain, at 1,450 feet per second. So what you have is essentially equivalent in the Carbine loading to a 357 Magnum. Now that's no joke, friends. Any 357 is to be taken seriously. And what we have, and please pardon the wind noise, yeah, it's a blustery day out here and you may hear some wind noise from time to time. Please overlook that if you would. Anyway, what we have here is essentially a 45 ACP size and type gun, but with a smaller hole in the barrel for 38 Super. Now this particular gun has a single stack magazine. All the cartridges are placed directly in line on top of each other. It holds 9 cartridges in the magazine for one in the chamber for a total of 10. This is a very, very nicely made package. A lot of people think this may be the finest semi-automatic made by anybody. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that because there are a lot of real good semi-automatics out there. But the SIG is definitely among the very best made. It has an aluminum frame with a steel slide, and what's interesting, it only weighs about 26 or 27 ounces, so it's a very lightweight gun. Friends, as I was saying, for the weight of the gun, it is a relatively slim package. It's a little slimmer than the double stack, such as their 9mm or 40s. Let's take a look at it in action. Load it. See, not, and of course, decock it. The very first thing, we'll take a look at the controls in just a moment. But you can see not a whole heck of a lot of recoil. This Winchester silver tip loading is what I would call an upper mid-range loading. Again, if you're serious about power in a 38 Super, well, you need to get some Carbine ammunition because it's a real thing. But I really have enjoyed our SIG here. The good folks at Britain's loaned us this for testing. We really do appreciate them and their efforts toward promoting our program. But it has a very nice set of sights, and It's interesting that a test target was shipped with the gun, and they come in a real nice plastic box like this with one spare magazine. And the test target showed about 1.4 inches for 5 shots at 25 yards. Well, that's pretty close. Yesterday we were out here field testing it. We got a little less than 2 inches with these silver tips. So I thought that was good performance for any semi-automatic pistol that will shoot less than 2-inch groups at 25 yards. I think that is excellent performance for a factory gun, one that has not been customized. Anyway, it functions well. These guns are very slick as far as the way they're made. The surfaces are all very nicely machined. Now let me say one thing, and first of all let me compare. It's roughly equivalent in size to our 45 government model. The good news is they have literally the same grip angle as the government model, which to most of us is going to be the ideal grip angle for a handgun. Now then, friends, one thing let me add. This is a semi-automatic pistol, and I don't care if you've got a semi-automatic pistol and say, well, my guns never jam. Trust me, you just haven't shot it long enough. Now I say jam, some of the more educated people would say a malfunction, but still, even the very best of the semi-automatics do occasionally malfunction. And as military guns, these are probably as good as it gets as military guns. Certainly, they're in a class of the great Colt, probably. They're very, very reliable. The beauty part about a semi-automatic versus a revolver as a military type gun, and other than magazine capacity, and that's open for argument, but you can drop a semi-automatic in the sand or mud or whatever. It's very simple to take it down and clean it. Now then, if you drop one of these revolvers, it's going to be a more difficult situation. If you have to take a side plate off or take it down, they're harder to get sand out of quickly. The reliability factor, and some people may or may not agree, but here on this program we have shot about everything that goes bang. We have literally, there's not many action types of whatever that we haven't come across or fooled with or observed or photographed or shot ourselves over the course of this program. And even the best semi-automatics do occasionally malfunction, even these SIGs. And these are probably as reliable as any other semi-automatic pistol that's ever been made. But just remember that. And a lot of police officers are going to guns like this and they're not familiar with how they work. And as you've heard me say a dozen times, if you heard me say twice, the semi-automatics do take more work. They do take more training. And remember, you can unload one of these guns, take the magazine out. This gun does not have a magazine safety. See what happens? See, it was not unloaded, even though we took that magazine out. And we'll be talking about that on another point in the program, and certainly on other shows. But this is a double action semi-automatic. It does not have a manual safety. It has a number of internal safeties, like a firing pin safety, a number of things that make this a safe gun, but it's only safe if it's operated properly, and I cannot overstress that. Here we are starting a new year. We have a lot of new viewers. We are hearing from more and more major markets that are starting to pick up our program, and we will be talking about these things periodically. Well, let's take a closer look at the SIG P220 and 38 Super. This is the famous Thunder 5 revolver shooting the 45 Colt cartridge, also the 410 shotgun shell. It's also available in 45-70 and includes some caliber inserts that are optional. And let's get that snake. For information on the Thunder 5, call 1-800-654-0797. Again, that's 1-800-654-0797. Now, friends, you can tell it is a very business-like look, a business-like design. You'll see we have a single-stack magazine, holes here, so you can take the magazine out and see how many are remaining to be fired. But it has a very nice set of sights. I rather like this better than 3 dots myself. You can see you have a white post here in the rear. You just line them up. Very nicely done. Let's check it. Yes, we know it's empty. And we'll Now then, you see when I pull the slide back, of course it cocked itself. This is the decock lever right here. What you would do is reach up with your thumb, push down without touching that trigger, and it decocks itself safely. This lever right here is the slide release that would lock it back. And of course, to release the slide, just press this down. And of course, we'll decock it again. The first shot, typical double action, the first shot is fired like so. And of course, then the second shot will be like in the single action mode. A lot of people shoot the SIGs better. Don't really know what the engineering specifications might be that would make it more ergonomically suitable for a lot of people, but I've seen some people shoot these SIGs pretty doggone well, not making or not missing on that transition between the first and second shots, but very nicely done. Now to take the gun down, all you do is push the slide all the way back and lock it in place, and you've got a lever right here. Just push it down, very simply, push the lever down. Now then, release the slide, and it just slides off the gun. Now here we have an alloy frame, very simple. Rails that run from all the way from the back of the receiver to the very front. Very nicely done, very good machining, and that's something that impresses me about, I think the Germans have always been noted for their machine work, and this is no exception. It's a Browning type action as far as a locked breech, short recoil action. Of course, to get it back in gear, you just put it back on the frame there, and let's pull it back to where we can lock the slide, turn the lever up, and it's back together, and we'll decock it. Our friends, recently on the program we featured a 38 automatic, a Spanish Astra 400. Well, this is an important point. This is a 38 Super cartridge on your left, and here we have a 9mm on your right. The Super case is the same dimension as the 38 automatic case. You must never, under any circumstance, put a 38 Super in a gun chambered for, or where it says on the gun, 38 automatic, because these Supers run at much, much higher pressures. And the Super, just like the 38 automatic, if you remember, is a semi-rimmed cartridge. The rim sticks out a little bit beyond the diameter of the case, but it's not enough really to affect feeding. Here's our standard 9 over here, and you can tell that the Super has a slightly larger rim. But a very fine cartridge, this 38 Super, that I think deserves a lot more attention than it's gotten. Hello friends, I'm out here practicing for one of the most fun hunting sports that you can imagine. You can use a variety of action types. You have access to year-round hunting, some cases no limits, and you get to use a variety of guns. Well, you know what I'm talking about is the sport of varmint hunting. And we need to introduce you folks to varmint hunting. A lot of us have been doing it for years and didn't know what to call it, but we especially need to introduce you to the Varmint Hunter magazine.
You know, friends, varmint hunting is one of the fastest growing shooting sports in the world. In fact, the Varmint Hunters Association, they have members in all 50 states and 19 foreign countries. Now, their magazine focuses on varmint hunting and super accurate reloading and shooting techniques. Plus, there's a lot of humor, a lot of interesting cartoons and humorous articles in the magazine. Incidentally, the magazine is large, it's very high quality, and something I think you're really going to enjoy reading, and it's published quarterly. It's only $24 for an associate membership in the Varmint Hunters Association. And look, for information, now you ought to do this. If you're a dedicated shooter, this is something I think you're really going to enjoy. For information on the Varmint Hunter magazine and the Varmint Hunters Association, call them at 1-800-528-4868. Again, 1-800-528-4868. Be sure and tell them you saw it on the Shootin' Show.
Don't go away. The Shootin' Show will be right back after these very important messages.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
You know, friends, this box of Corbin ammunition and this Wesson 41 Magnum are in fact a perfect match for each other. But it doesn't matter whatever gun you may have, like this SKS or a hunting rifle or a 38 Special or a 9mm, makes no difference, because Corbin is absolutely the best factory ammunition that money can buy, period. And also, friends, when you see a box of Corbin on the shelf or you give them a call, realize that Corbin is helping keep the Shootin' Show on the air. They've been one of our most dedicated sponsors. You cannot find finer people in the entire shooting industry. For information on Corbin ammunition, call them 1-800-626-7266. Again, 1-800-626-7266. Tell them you saw it on the Shootin' Show. Well, friends, we've actually got some rays of sun trying to come through there. I see some patches of blue around. Maybe that front's passing on through. I think there's some really cold weather behind it. At least cold for us here. Talking to Kurt the other day, and he's been doing a piece on a machine gun that he has for the show, and he's talking about they have serious snow and ice in the part of the country he lives in. Well, we don't get a lot of snow and ice here, but we darn sure get some cold weather from time to time. Anyway, moving right along. What we're going to do, we have our Pro Timer on here from Competition Electronics, and we're going to run a little test because, you know, friends, when you need a handgun, you need one real bad at the time. And many times those certainly the first shot or the first few shots are the ones that are really so terribly important. So let's do something right now. Let's do a first shot drill and see how long it takes to accurately get the first shot. And some of you may be wondering why you don't see us doing draws on the program. Well, I think the best draw is a solid, be sure that you have that gun firmly in your hand and then take it out of the holster to the target. What we're concerned about mostly is being able to react and hit your target accurately, quickly. And some people in past years, fast draw, in fact, has probably been developed into an art form. There are people like Bob Munden, whom you see on the opening and closing of our program, that are so fast you in fact can't see them. But we're concerned more about, if you know there's going to be trouble, go on and get your gun. You'll have your gun in your hand probably. If you don't, if you know there's a problem, if you're a police officer, you probably should have your gun in your hand. If you're a homeowner, that someone's breaking in your home and you call 911, you're not going to walk around with a gun in your holster. You're going to have it out in your hand in case you have to use it. So anyway, we don't really stress draws that much here on the program. Again, I think the best draw is one that you would solidly get the grip of the gun in your hand, come up and to the target. And you don't want to fool around and have a sloppy draw or try to draw too quick or whatever. You don't want to drop your gun. That's the worst thing that could happen if you're in a confrontation. Anyway, let's run some tests, and we're going to compare this double action semi-automatic. And again, the SIG is one of the very best as far as that first shot on the double action guns. We'll compare it to our standard gun here, our government model, and to the revolver. So let's see what happens. Get in position here, and we're going to be going for our circle here, about 10 inches or so in diameter. We're out here at about 10 feet. Let's go ahead and do this. We'll go from the low ready position, finger off the trigger. Punch our timer, get ready. And decock the gun. I can't overstress that. Always decock the gun after the first shot. Well, 57 hundredths of a second. Not too bad, actually. All right, let's compare that to our government model. And we do have a nice center hit there, just about center on the target. Same drill. 57 hundredths, that's not too bad. Punch it again. .51 hundredths of a second. Again, not so bad. Put that down. Good center hit. Now let's take our revolver. Same drill. .59 hundredths. So you could say it's pretty much just me this afternoon. All three of them are literally within hundredths of a second of each other. So for the first shot, the standard single action automatic, our double action gun, again, the SIGs are one of the very best. They're very, very close. And the difference today could just be my reaction time out here in the cold. but which is I think a pretty good performance. That's not blindingly fast, but it's not terribly slow either. Well, let's do something else. Friends, what you're looking at is one of the neatest discoveries we've made in some time on the program. This is a bottle of Black Canyon black powder replacement. And one of the things you miss with this is, since it has no sulfur in it, you don't have the mess that we normally associate with black powder shooting. It's more stable than black powder. It's a little safer to store and handle. And those of us who enjoy shooting these black powder firearms, you just don't have to spend all that extra time in cleaning, because there's just not much mess at all. You need some of this if you enjoy shooting and hunting with black powder. So give them a call, Black Canyon Black Powder Replacement. Call them 800-622-8669. Again, 1-800-622-8669. Please tell them you saw it on the Shootin' Show.
Friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Shotgun News, Post Office Box 669, Hastings, Nebraska, the zip code 68902, their phone number, area 402-463-4589, MasterCard or Visa for subscriptions only. Now call them at 1-800-345-6923.
Now then, friends, let's run a drill. 3 shots on 3 targets from the low ready position. And remember, only hits count, and that's what we're concerned about. Only hits count. And let's compare the 3 guns and see what happens. Get in position. Punch our timer. Well, 1.35 seconds, which is a pretty fair time, not bad. And we'll talk about this at other times on the program, and if we get that automatic piece in, I'll be talking about it today too. You've got to remember to decock these guns after you shoot them. With the double action guns that don't have a manual safety, you may take the gun out and shoot it. It'll be cocked. You may forget to decock it, put it in your holster, and then if it goes off, then you got a nice crease down your leg, which you darn sure don't want. So try the same drill with our government model Colt. 1.35 seconds for the first 3 shots with the SIG. Well, 1.18 seconds, and we've got all good hits. So I'm going to assume that the difference in time, I see that's over 1/10 of a second, which in a confrontation we would be concerned with in adjusting from that first shot to the second. Well, as our control, let's try the same drill with our 357 Magnum. Of course, we're using full charge ammunition. 1.18 seconds. Let's see what happens. Well, actually, the revolver was a little quicker. 1.14 seconds. We have a pretty good hit. This is slightly out of the circle. Good hit, though. And the other 2, and more power than the other 2 cartridges there with the full charge 357. What we're talking about here, the revolver is being unfairly treated, I think, by a lot of administrators who are relying strictly on firepower. Let me tell you what, friends. As good as this SIG is, and as good as this Colt is, and these are, I would say this, these are 2 of the absolute finest semi-automatics ever made anytime by anybody. But let me tell you what, the old revolver still has an awful lot going for it. One, especially if you're a new shooter. You can shoot in a 357 like this. You can start off mildly with a 38 special, and then gravitate up or graduate up to a full charge 357. And one thing about this SIG, you can shoot 38 automatic cartridges in a 38 Super, and they're downloaded. It'll be somewhat milder if it'll function. You can learn to shoot the gun or train someone for 38 Super with 38 automatic cartridges, and then graduate back up to the Super, which is certainly quite a bit more powerful. But anyway, friends, the semi-automatics typically have been backup guns in the military to the main battle weapon, which was the rifle. Okay, if you're a homeowner, or especially if you're a police officer, honestly, I think I would take a long look at the revolver. We don't have an axe to grind with any of these manufacturers. I really don't care what gun type it is. All of them are useful. All of them have their place. Certainly it's whatever you like. But if you're a police officer and you're out somewhere by yourself and your life depends on some shots being fired, I would take a long, hard look at a revolver. As a backup gun, hey, I might carry a high-capacity semi-automatic as a backup gun. But the revolver, honestly, truthfully, the revolvers are more reliable than the semi-automatics. Now then, I really don't care if some of you get mad over that, because I like semi-automatics too and sometimes carry them. But if you had an airplane, for instance, my Colt here, my 45 ACP that I think so much of, I like this old gun, it will malfunction about 1 in 700 or 800 rounds. We read tests of where some guns, I think Glock ran one a while back where so many thousand rounds were fired without incident. Well, that's all well and good, but that's a test and not quite the real world. Typically, you have a lot more things that have to be working right in a semi-automatic than in a revolver. Now, we've jammed these too. We've made revolvers malfunction too. But a good friend of mine with a combat school, and the only reason I'm saying this is because so many people now don't know what to go look for, what to buy. There's a craze on, and you know where literally the craze on the high-capacity semi-automatics come from? It comes from fictitious television. It's absolutely silly because people, and police officers among them, see movies and TV shows where somebody's going bang, 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 bang. Oh, well, I need a semi-automatic. Yeah, great. Well, remember, that is storytelling. That is fictitious television. The semi-autos are great. We've got a real nice piece on them, I think, today. But the revolvers, probably, this is our figures here, the revolvers are going to be about 10 times more reliable or less likely to malfunction than the semi-automatics. Now, 10 times is a lot. Now, picture this. If you had a choice of getting on 2 airplanes, and one airplane is known to crash every 1,000 flights, another airplane over here is known to crash every 10,000 flights, which one you gonna get on? Just an example there. And I'm not derating the semi-automatics. They certainly have their place, but the revolvers are simpler and for a lot of people are going to be a better choice. Now that we have this ridiculous set of rules in place where you can only have a semi-automatic, a new one anyway, coming from the factory with no more than 10 rounds in the magazine, well, those people who were looking at semi-automatics for magazine capacity, there's not that great an advantage. And again, the revolvers are so simple by and large. And an example of this is, let's say, and this is the example that Bill Jordan gives in one of his books. And Bill Jordan is the great Border Patrolman. We've seen him on the program here more than once. The example he gives is this. If, as a peace officer, as a police officer, if you're facing someone with a gun, he has a revolver, you have a semi-automatic. Both of you hit dead primers, and you hit a faulty round of ammunition, in other words. Who's in trouble? All the revolver shooter has to do is pull the trigger again, whereas on the semi-automatic, you're not exactly sure what's wrong. You're going to have to literally pull that slide back. We'll go ahead and unload it. Pull that slide back, get that shell out before you can go on shooting. Now then, this here doesn't take nearly as long as that there. So, you know, friends, like I said, I like semi-automatics. We here at the program certainly find them useful and very fine guns, but in reality, as a home defense gun or as a police officer, a lot of us should be taking a hard look at revolvers, because I would hate for the last thing I saw, if I was in a confrontation, and in today's world, it's our crazy society, more and more of us are finding ourselves in confrontation. I would hate for the last thing I saw was wonder why my gun's malfunctioning. So again, if I were a police officer, and I think that I would take a hard look at carrying maybe 2 revolvers, I certainly would not rule the revolver out as a first line of defense because of that reliability factor. Well, anyway, back to our SIG, and we sort of went all around the location there in talking about it. The SIG 220 is one of the nicest finished semi-automatics you're going to find today on the market. They're not inexpensive, but then again, the quality and durability of these guns, we saw a 10,000 round test on one of these guns a while back, and at the end of the test, the gun wasn't shooting quite as well as it had at 10,000 rounds or so, ever how many it was. And anyway, all it took was a thorough cleaning of the barrel, and then the gun went right back to shooting as well as it had when it came out of the box. So they really are very durable guns. The SIG P220 and 38 Super, heck of a nice combination.
Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station. Well, Al, looking at these SKSs, your SKS looks quite a bit different from mine.
Well, it is. You see, I got the Capco SKS Hunter Pack for mine. You get the muzzle brake and the scope mount for a full-size scope, and the grip extension and the cheek rest, which makes it much easier to sight through the scope, and the butt plate. Now, this is possibly the most useful of the accessories, but this is the SKS Hunter Pack from Capco, C-A-P-C-O. It's available at Brownells, at Federal Arms, at Midway and CTD, and at Tapco, that's with a T, and at Ron Yates Sporting Goods. Or they could just call us here at the Shootin' Show if they want to be a dealer for this SKS Hunter Pack from Capco, and we'll put them in touch with the manufacturers.
Well, Judge, that Capco Hunter package impressed me as being a very nice deal. That was $59, incidentally. I don't know if we gave the price earlier or not. But that Hunter pack for the SKS was, and you and I both have SKSs and like them, and that's what it was, I believe, was $59. Heck of a nice deal for everything it included. Well, sir, here it is, 1995. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a new year, Johnny.
Oh, about a loaded question.
it's a new year, all right. And that brings up the topic of people shooting up in the air to celebrate New Year's.
A ridiculous thing that, and we don't really know how this, we know that some of the Arab nations in Africa do it and some other countries, but we didn't think that really civilized people shot their guns up in the air. Because, friends, you never know where that bullet's going to come down. If it goes up, it's got to come down, doesn't it?
Got to come down somewhere, and it comes down almost as fast as it went up.
Well, you can figure. In fact, we heard on our statewide news here the past couple of days, a woman in New Orleans was died from a bullet wound she received. She was standing in a crowd of people, and someone somewhere within could have been a half mile away, or who knows where, shot up in the air, and she was standing in a crowd of people, and she fell down, and people around her just thought she fell down, and carried her to the hospital. They x-rayed her head, and sure enough, there was a bullet inside her brain, and some knucklehead, and really I'm being charitable calling them a knucklehead, anybody who'll go out and shoot a gun up in the air, not caring where the bullet comes down, I think they ought to be horsewhipped myself.
Well, they're guilty of negligent homicide. Any question about that, Johnny. That is a homicide, and it is caused by gross negligence. It seems so silly that people would do that, and yet your friend that runs Britain's told you what?
Told me that he had a tremendous number of people come in and buy 5 and 6 bullets at a time. And I said, what in the world for? He said, well, as bad as it sounds, he suspected a lot of them were going to be shot New Year's, just up, not knowing, but he suspected that they were going to be shot on New Year's Eve. Firecrackers are so much cheaper. You know, if you went outside, if you live in the city limits anywhere, you shouldn't be indiscriminately firing a gun, period. And nobody likes to shoot more than we do. And of course, we do it all the time. We do it under proper conditions. And there's one other little thing I do want to mention. We heard on our local news, a young man was twirling a semi-automatic pistol that he thought was unloaded. What had happened, I'm sure, they had taken the magazine out of the semi-automatic. Well, friends, look, this is a piece of equipment. It is one of the most important things that we can own to defend our lives, to enjoy shooting. This is not a toy. It is no gun, is a toy. And we talked about that elsewhere on the program today. Some of the things that people have seen in television and movies is reprehensible in the handling characteristics of some of these guns. I really don't know how or why twirling began, but that used to be done as part of a Western type stunt with a single action revolver where nothing would happen when the trigger was pulled. When you put your finger on the trigger, nothing happens on a single action revolver. But friends, I would personally, I'm sure the judge would agree, we discourage anything like that. They're not to be played with. We never point at something that we can't afford to shoot. There's no excuse for it. And I think if that young man had been watching our program, well, he might have been able to, that accident could have been prevented. That's one reason it's so important that we reach into as many areas, because so many people don't know about responsible or proper gun handling, and somebody's got to tell them.
Well, of course, that's one of the big aims of this show, Johnny, is to teach people something about firearm safety, how to responsibly and properly handle firearms. You noticed when I took this gun out of your hand, first thing I did was to check it to make sure it was unloaded.
Absolutely.
It's been a kind of a foolish thing to do with you, because I know that you would have already taken care of it, but I checked it myself.
But that's right, I'm human and I make mistakes and I forget, and just for everyone's safety involved here, that is so important. An unloaded gun never hurt anybody, never.
But an unloaded gun is the one that always accidents happen with.
Or in other words, the gun that people think or someone thinks is unloaded. And we just cannot afford to take a chance. There's no need in it. And that just sickened me when I heard about the shooting up in the air incident, and also when I heard about the incident with the young man twirling. Friends, don't twirl these handguns. Don't do it. That's ridiculous. There's just no need in it.
You don't think I ought to take this in
No,
court?
please don't. No, please don't.
Well, we had something else that we want to talk about. There's did you get the telephone number and everything in for Capco?
Yes, we handle that.
I saw the gun owner's greatest quote friend, actually enemy, on TV. That was Representative Sherma.
Oh my.
He's the ranking minority member of the House Judiciary Committee now. You know who the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee is?
Now.
Yeah, now.
Jesse Helms, right?
No, that's in the Senate.
Henry
Hyde.
Henry Hyde. Okay. My mistake.
Henry Hyde. Now, Henry Hyde's one of those Republicans that I'm not too sure we can count on very much, because he took it on himself to step down from his chair on the committee and come over and hug Sarah Brady and get bussed by her. I don't know what Henry Hyde is going to do. He has given us the opinion, his personal opinion, that that the crime bill won't be interfered with, or the Brady Act, the Brady bill won't be interfered with, and I don't know whether what's going to happen. He did say that if those things came up, they'd get a fair hearing in his committee, which is a lot better than has happened in the past.
That's true.
When they were adopted. Well,
Well, I one other thing I wanted to address this week was the black rhino. We've had some calls about that.
that's what he was talking about. Talking about the black rhino bullet, the one that we've gotten all this press on recently. There seems to be some question about whether such a bullet actually exists or not.
I think that's correct. From what we've seen, and the bullet that actually did exist, I saw in an ABC, and I think that ABC is trying to overcome that fiasco they had with the exploding Chevrolet truck by actually doing a real scientific piece. It's one of the better things I've seen on ABC a while over this black rhino deal. Actually, from what I saw, and from the description that's been given on the one that was actually being made, we don't know about this bulletproof vest penetration model. One, let me say that no policeman has ever been shot with a cop killer bullet through a bullet. It's never happened. KTW used to make them years ago. There's been legislation against them. They were only sold to police anyway, and nobody was ever shot with one. No police officer was ever shot with one anyway. And Schumer wanted to make up some sort of hypothetical. Well, you know, let's make a law against the moon falling tomorrow. I mean, it's hypothetical, but it could. Well, that's the mentality that this nut has. But the black rhino bullet that I saw was only a duplication of a couple of other shells that have been out there for many years, have been available for sale. So, and ABC, their conclusion was that, and the H.P. White Laboratories conclusion was, this was not anymore or even as powerful as some other stuff that's already out there.
Well, as I recall it, there were two of those bullets. One of them was called the Black Rhino. That was the one you're talking about that's supposed to penetrate a bulletproof vest, bullet-resistant vest. And what's the other one? It was a gun. It was a bullet that had a plastic point with shot in it, and the plastic point disintegrated, and the shot did the damage. And that's exactly what happens with a Glacier safety slug and several other bullets that are on the market. And it's incidentally not a bit different what happens with a 410 gauge shotgun shell.
That's true. That's exactly right.
Probably has a little greater range in one respect, and probably a little more carefully aimed.
Well, Kurt and I were talking about, from the way the news media bit this and the way that Schumer bit on this, if somebody called up and said, you know, there may be they were developing a cartridge with a laser-guided bullet, and they had a little chip glued to it and showed it to the news people, they'd probably bite that too. So it's just ridiculous.
Well, of course, all of it ignores something else too, Johnny. I don't want to shoot anybody if I can help it.
Certainly not.
But if I do have to shoot somebody,
you want them to quit what they're doing.
I want it to stop them then and there. I don't want this business of just being wounded and continuing to bash on somebody. If somebody's attacking me and I have to stop him before he can succeed, I want to S-T-O-P, stop, then and there. And that can be done with various types of ammunition. I've shot a lot of bullets in my life. I have fired a lot of shells. I've shot shotguns, rifles, pistols, military rifles, 22s probably mostly. You know, there are more 22 cartridges manufactured than there is everything else put together.
Oh, sure. And by the way, the people who are really in the business of shooting people, the mafia, and some of these various covert agencies, their typical gun is a 22. In fact, because it's low noise, and the people who actually who do that sort of thing, eliminating others, or they don't even use the stuff we do. They typically, for defense, they use a 22. That's what the mafia uses primarily, and some of the some of the Middle Eastern covert type groups that. So really, it's ridiculous that this even surfaced at all.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
More and more often, women are faced with protecting themselves and their homes. But another way of protection is through information. And we at the Shootin' Show believe that the new American magazine has the best information that you can possibly get.
You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE. And those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month. Friends, you need this magazine if you want to know what's going on. And in times like this, we need both of these. We need our guns, and we darn sure need our information.
Of course, Johnny, that brings up another thing. We have here the pistol that you were just showing a few minutes ago. It's a .357 Magnum. It's heavy.
Right.
I don't know how much do you suppose this thing weighs?
About 38 ounces.
All right, and how much would an airweight .22 weigh?
An airweight 22 or something equivalent, 15, 12, 14 ounces, somewhere there.
Under a pound.
Under a pound, sure.
Much smaller.
Right.
More concealable.
More concealable.
I can't take this and stick it in my inside pocket, and
Well, it's going to sag a little bit.
it's going to sag a little bit. Yeah. The people that are using guns for lethal purposes like that want something that's small, easily concealable, doesn't weigh very much. It is virtually hidden all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I have a concealed weapons permit, but that's really not necessary with something like this because you can't very well conceal it.
That's true.
Back to our political. Don't forget, we've got all of the people that have been trying to disarm us still alive. None of them have died, as far as I know. And probably some of them have gotten bigger mouths than ever because they're unhappy about being defeated for re-election. They're unhappy about their party losing control of Congress. And the first thing that Clinton said was that, well, it's not going to change the Brady bill. It's not going to change the assault weapons ban. And it probably won't. But they can get local governmental units to do foolish things, and we have to be vigilant. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty, and you must always pay attention to what's happening in your local governments, in your state governments, in your city and county governments, because those things can happen. For those of us who have firearms preemption laws that have been adopted in our state, such as Louisiana, we don't have to worry very much about local governments, but we do have to worry about state government because they can always come up with some crazy idea. They're pretty good at it, as a matter of fact. But we also have a constitutional provision in Louisiana that is as broad as any constitutional provision anywhere, and as a backup, that's a fallback position. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to get any dangerous gun laws passed in Louisiana, and we've got the Fed stopped, we hope, pretty much. I noticed that the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, the Honorable Orrin Hatch, who was just elected by a tremendous landslide, re-elected by a tremendous landslide in Utah, has said that as long as he's chairman of that committee, that there's not going to be any more gun control laws coming out of that committee. Hooray for
Or in Hatch.
Or in Hatch. I'm
Absolutely.
just delighted with him, and people in Utah are delighted with him too. I just came back from out there, passed through Utah, didn't stay there very long, just was on my way to Idaho and on my way back from Idaho. But the people out there really like him, and he needs to know he's got some real fans down here too. Don't forget the Gun Owners of America. Tremendous group. We've boosted them in the past. I want to boost them again. They are more militant in protection of our rights than the National Rifle Association is. I'm not belittling the NRA. It's a tremendous bureaucracy. But if you really want something done, you can bet that GOA has the willingness to do it. We're going to see them at SHOT Show. We'll see the NRA too, but I bet you we'll see the people that do things from GOA.
Yep.
You will not see the people that do things from NRA at the SHOT Show. I don't know what they'll be doing. I hope that Tanya McCosta will be there. I plan to see her if she is. And I know you're going to be doing a lot at the SHOT Show. And incidentally, we've got a new member of our group here that probably is also going to be at the SHOT Show, although she's there in another capacity. Jennifer's sitting over here, and she's going to do a commercial in a few minutes. I guess that ought to do it for this week, Johnny.
Well, Judge, we've only just begun. Oh, incidentally, I rather enjoyed your Bill Clinton impression there a moment ago. I rather enjoyed that.
Did I do an impression of Bill Clinton?
Well, anyway, back
Well,
up.
he was pretty much of a sorehead about this election. And he and Hillary and everybody else have been trying to interpret what happened, trying to figure some way to put a twist on it that helps them. And Bill and Hillary, I don't think you can do that to these election results.
Tri-tote's real easy to use because all you have is a hook on your waist and you have another hook on a strap. Okay, so all you're doing is you're hanging your gun up like you would on a peg gun rack. There is never anything attached to your equipment when you use the tri-tote. Okay, you just set the gun with one hook behind the trigger guard and the other hook on the barrel. To use it, you just push in on towards your chest, pick the gun up to shoot it. Basically, you got 7 different positions anywhere you want to range the barrel of the gun by just taking it off. It's a piece of Velcro strap onto a Velcro shoulder pad. You just put the gun into it, pick it up and shoot it any way you want. I know a lot of people like to walk around with their gun over their wrist. In this position, tucked up under your arm, it's real comfortable, except it breaks your wrist. Set the gun with the hook in front of the trigger guard, and you got the same position, except your hands free always. And what you want to do is you can take your trigger finger right at the trigger guard, pick the gun right up off the pod, and then you got it ready to shoot. Okay? The other position that you have is when you set the butt of the gun right on the hook on the side, and you can just hold your gun for field shooting in this manner, or you can just rest it back on your shoulder, shrug your shoulder, hit the gun, catch it, and the gun comes up. It's that simple to use. A lot of people like to go out riding on their four-wheeler and their ATV or climb into their deer stand or drag their deer. You got a securing strap that just peels back. All you do is set it on the barrel of the gun, wrap the barrel up, and you have a little securing loop down here on the pod. Okay? You take that and you secure that right over the hook of the gun, so you're securing the top and the bottom. You can ride your four-wheeler, you can climb your tree stand in this manner. If you'd like to pull out your deer, you can open your waist belt up, drop your right hand down through your straps, bring your left hand back up through it. The gun immediately goes on your back. Buckle it up. Take away any of that slack. You don't want that. Just readjust it. Pull it up tight on your back, and that's the most secure back carry you'll ever have. You can drag your deer out any way you want to drag your deer out. Climb your hands, use your binoculars. You're always hands-free with the tri-tote.
Now then, friends, for information or to order one of the all-season tri-totes, call them at 1-800-231-1443. MasterCard or Visa, a $38.50 plus $6.50 shipping and handling. This is a special price for our Shootin' Show audience, so please identify to them that it is, you did see it on the Shootin' Show. This is an excellent piece of equipment a lot of us would like to have, friends. 1-800-231-1443.
We as Americans have the right to choose or pursue the best of anything. But when it comes to ammunition, Corbin is the best. For handgun or rifle or even some specialty calibers, Corbin is the best.
Now, friends, bear in mind that we do have a lot of new viewers, people that don't know very much about guns, and for those of you who are shooting enthusiasts, this will be old stuff to you, but occasionally we need to go back and bring some of the new shooters who we're so appreciative, we're so glad to have you watching the program, but we're going to cover some real basics for you. There are a couple of basic types of revolvers. One is the single action revolver, and two is the double action revolver. So let's take a look at that right now. Now, friends, this is a single action revolver. This, when I say single action, the trigger has one action. It just releases the hammer. You have to cock the hammer for each shot. They're typically loaded through this gate right here. You put a cartridge in. We already have some in the cylinder. And here's how they work to shoot the gun. And bear in mind, this is a Ruger Super Blackhawk with a transfer bar type safety. On the old style, the Colt, and other old style single action revolvers, they should be carried with 5 rounds in the cylinder with an empty chamber underneath that hammer. It's really important on the old style guns, but on the Rugers that have been made since 1973, they call it the new model, they're safe to be carried with 6 rounds in the cylinder there. Okay, to shoot a single action revolver, first of all, we'll cock the hammer and fire the gun. Again, every shot the hammer must be cocked like so and fired like so. Now, friends, we've run out of time on this week's program for this feature, and we'll come back to it on our next program. Incidentally, if you would like to advertise on the Shootin' Show, you can call us at 1-800-SAVE-YOU-GUN. That's 1-800-728-8486. Our staff will be very happy to talk to you. Well, friends, it's happened again. We've run out of time for today's program. From Kurt, the judge, myself, we want to thank everyone for being with us for today's program, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Shootin' Show.